Recording in progress.
All right, let's call the meeting order of February 22nd, 2022 at 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember James Blair.
Here.
Councilmember Joseph Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember Joshua Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Holly Smith. Here. Councilmember Brian Hess.
Here.
Councilmember Lynn Roy. Here. Councilmember Terry Kaminsky. Here. Mayor David Pinto.
Here. All right, item number 2, can I get agenda approval?
I move we approve the agenda.
Councilmember Smith? Second, we'll go with Kaminsky. Motion second, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. All right, under item number 3, special presentations. We're gonna introduce some new employees, but we couldn't get them all in one place, one time. So we're gonna be doing this at a appreciation lunch instead. We're gonna invite the whole council and we'll do it more informal so you can get to know them a little bit. Really? What's that noise?
What is that?
Okay.
The rats in the
Do we have rats in the ceiling? Is that what it is? No. All right, anyway, moving on. I will tell you who they are though, just for your information. We got Beth over administrative assistant for the police department. Got Miriam, that some of you met today earlier in your public works committee meeting. She's an associate planner. Jerry Dahlberg is a parks maintenance worker, and Justin over at the wastewater treatment plant. He's a wastewater treatment operator. Those are new employees, and we'll be sure to make sure they get a chance to meet with you. All right, is there any public comment? Anyone online that wishes to testify?
I don't see anyone raising their hand.
All righty, we'll move on to our consent agenda, which includes the study session and February 8 minutes, financials for the year end 2021 December, check register, budget position, earning item summary, also closing out for December 2021. All of this is in your packets. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda approval?
Second that.
Yeah, it must be the rats. So there is a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, got a consent agenda. Item number 6, we'll work on that. We'll figure out what that noise is. Hopefully it doesn't continue. For the under item number 6, new business. Start off with supplement number 2 to professional services agreement, the off-leash dog parks. And this is going to be a Pat issue. So Pat, would you please tell us about it?
Yeah, I'll introduce this. Good evening, Council, Mayor DePinto. For those of you on Council who have not yet met, I'm Pat Hughes, the City Engineer from the Public Services Department. To introduce this, in June of 2021, the City Council approved an agreement with Skillings Incorporated for design of a new off-leash dog park and access road. The design of this dog park is already well underway and plans are now in the 30% stage. But the original design of the dog park was to include a new prefabricated restroom facility provided by Public Restroom Company, very similar to the building that we installed out at Cochran Park last year. But during the design process, we learned that the cost of this facility had increased significantly, about $100,000 more, prompting the design team to seek other less costly alternatives. So to save construction costs, a decision was made to build this restroom facility in place rather than using a prefabricated structure and having it shipped to the site. So as a result, Skillings obtained an estimate from an architectural firm, MSGS Architects of Olympia, having design experience with these type of public facilities. The design supplement, which by the way is on page 100 of your agenda packet, this supplement increases Skilling's design fee, which includes the architect's design fee, with the goal of producing a design for this restroom for a less costly scratch-built facility. Our intent is that this fee increase would more than offset the savings that we would get during construction. So what I'm asking tonight is for the recommendation for your approval to authorize Mayor DePinto to sign a supplemental agreement number 2 to the professional services agreement with Skillings Incorporated in the not to exceed amount of $33,837 for additional design engineering services for the city's new off-leash dog park. If you got any questions for me about this fee or even the dog park project in general, I'd be happy to try to answer them at this time.
How much are we looking at to build a restroom?
Well, the original cost was about $350,000. I think we can build this even with the design fee for a fraction of that cost. So my estimate would be we're probably looking at somewhere in the $150,000 to $200,000 range for construction.
For a
Just-
bathroom? For a restroom?
Do you want to talk about how the park, what the costs are in Cochrane Park versus this, kind of how that escalated?
Well, we asked this public restroom company why, and I'm not sure I'm totally satisfied with their answer. They admitted that they really underbid the project for Cochrane Park and that they had some issues with some sales tax issues in the state of Washington. And I'm not sure I understand that reason because they've done a lot of work in the state of Washington. But my guess is there has been, as you well know, a significant increase in construction materials and just construction in general. And we approached them about maybe lowering their price of this prefabricated restroom, since it was going to be an identical design to the one we did in Cochrane Park. And their response, frankly, was no, that's what it is. So after consulting with Skillings, our engineering consultant, they said, you know what, I think we may be able to build this thing from scratch for a whole lot less money than having it prefabricated and shipped to the site. So we talked to the architect that they're using as their sub-consultant, and they agreed. And of course, we don't know what that cost is going to be, but I would have to believe we're going to save a lot of money over what they quoted us for prefab.
Councilmember Smith.
So because of the large cost and because there's a lot of public upsettedness, that's not the right word, but right now about the vandalism to other bathrooms, what is going to be implemented in these to help possibly offset or prevent?
Great question. We are actually in the process of installing security cameras out at Cochrane Park. We will complete the installation of these cameras once we complete phase 2 work out there at Cochrane Park. We've already installed the conduits, the sleeves for the infrastructure to run cabling out to the new restroom at the dog park, so that we'll be able to do the same thing there. We're planning plenty of lighting, and we're also going to have the security cameras mounted at various locations. We're working with the IT guys right now to plan that out. So that's the one thing we're going to be doing for sure at both facilities.
Councilmember Crossman.
How necessary is it to have a bathroom at the dog park? Is it a pretty big need, you would think, or not so much?
Well, is it necessary? We're basing our whole entire design on a lot of public outreach that we've done. We've talked to a lot of people in the community. We've talked with the Parks Advisory Committee, of which I'm a part of. And there seems to be a strong desire to have a restroom there on site. When people are there visiting, it would be a very desirable amenity to have. Is it necessary? That's a very difficult question to have. But is the entire dog park necessary? I think it's more a question of, this is something that the community has been asking for, wants, and this is actually a very popular project from what I've been hearing. I will add this too. if the cost of this restroom and for the construction part of it coming in too high, we could always go ahead and build the dog park without the restroom facility and just make provisions for adding that at a later date if we so choose. So, you know, everything's possible.
That was gonna be my follow-up question, if you could just get it ready for one and then put it in later if it was needed. Just because of the whole vandalism issue we're having right now with the other parks. You know, because I envision dog park, yes, I'm not against dog park at all, I'm totally for it, but it's mostly probably be used by adults. I just don't know how often the bathroom would be used, and that's just something to be, let's hold off on that till later, if it'd be more, you know, economically feasible to do it later, and then, you know, see how usage goes with the park. And if it's a necessary amendment, put it in.
That can always be done. We're just in the design phase right now, and we're just at the 30% design stage at this point. We haven't even considered to the point yet where we put this out for bids and construction and how we phase that construction. So, oh yeah, we've already considered that as a real possibility, not just from cost, but also, as you said, because we want to take a good look and see what kind of a need there is for it. That in itself is another good reason to build this thing as a stick-built structure, so we can control the timing on when this gets built. If we were to prefabricate this structure like we were originally going to do, we would have had to have that ordered already and underway in order to get the thing built and shipped and in place in time to put in. So that's another I see as a positive aspect of building this by scratch.
Councilmember Hess.
In reference to the restroom for the dog park, Stellacom has a really nice dog park, huge, well done. I believe their restroom facility is the Honey Bucket porta potties. Is there a reason why we don't consider doing the same thing? I mean, and my reasoning for it is there's no need for mirrors. There's no need for wonderful countertop or anything else like that. It's somebody who's taking their dog to the dog park and they need to utilize the restroom. They just need a spot to utilize the restroom and move on out. And so that's what I'm wondering is, instead of doing a great expense, and yes, it'd be nice to have, but wouldn't a porta potty, Honey Bucket be a little bit more reasonable?
Well, from a cost standpoint, it is. The question is, do you want a Honey Bucket restroom on your brand new dog park? That's really not a question for me. I'm prepared to answer tonight. That's a question that we need to take back to the design committee, to the Parks Advisory Committee, and to the the community at large to find out what it is they would like to see. I'm just the engineer building it.
No, I understand.
Other questions?
Is this, remind me, is this already budgeted, this, what monies do we have for this already? That's my question, I guess.
We have budget for the design portion of it. We do not yet have full budget for the construction portion. We're doing this in pieces for that very reason. As you know, we've already done some initial grading out there for the dog park. We called that our phase 1. The phase 2 that we're in right now is just the design for the remainder of the dog park. So we don't have the budget for the construction yet. That will be forthcoming. Depending on cost, of course. We do have funds available, but not a unlimited.
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest, since this is monies we're putting out now are for the design, I think we should fully design a proper bathroom. Whether we construct it now or later, it should be part of the design. Whether, it doesn't have to be fancy, but it should be a regular bathroom, and I do think they're required. Same.
I think this probably is required to have a bathroom facility.
Yeah.
Whether it's porta potties or a brick and mortar structure.
And plus we're hooking to our own sewer system is out there, right? It's on the road, so.
So it's already there. We've already got provisions made for the underground sleeving for water, reclaimed water, electric and sewer, and telecommunications. That'd be for the cameras.
Any other questions? Councilmember Blair.
You mentioned like getting input from the community and everything. I could say I'm fairly confident that the people that elected me in here would be fairly disappointed in me for voting in a $300,000 bathroom.
Yeah,
And there's got to be a significantly cheaper option, because you can go out and buy a house, maybe not here in Yelm anymore, but you can buy an entire house and property for $300,000. So a bathroom for that price is just insane.
it is. And that's one reason that prompted us to seek alternative.
Now,
Methods.
if I know plumbing starts becoming, I don't know where the costs are that drive up a bathroom, but I mean, can we look at options that aren't, it just needs to be somewhere you can take care of your business. It doesn't need to be state of the art.
Understood. And that's part of what the decisions we'll have to make when we move from the design stage into the construction stage, as we obtain architects and engineers cost estimates for construction. We need to make the decision. Do we want to move into the construction phase with this design, or do we want to scale it back? So when we get to that point, we're going to have to make those hard decisions. This is just for the design.
Well, having heard from most of the council, are there anyone that hasn't spoke on this yet?
Well,
Go ahead.
just so I understand, because it sounds like, so nobody's confused, and I've heard it said over and over again, that this is strictly just for the design, not construction, and so we're paying engineers and architects to design. So that's the allocated money for that, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so having kind of heard what the council's saying here, I think that we might want to relook at design for this. I know it's not, it shouldn't delay the overall project, correct, Pat?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I was wondering if we could consider some other ideas, options for this, whether it's porta potty, whether it's a different design. This is gonna be council decision, all that. Councilmember Kaminsky, sure.
We just ask for a simpler, less expensive design, but include the design for the bathroom within the design funds that we have.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I think it should have I do think it should have a bathroom, not a $300,000 bathroom.
Sure.
No,
And I
no, nor do I.
know.
Cody, I think is gonna address some of this.
So I'll just kind of a couple of things. So like they said, the bathroom that we originally had, the prefab one, was that $300,000. This design for the bathroom would not be. We're looking at about 150 is this one would be. And the reason why it's maybe a little higher is it's 2 bathrooms with changing pads in the bathrooms, and all of our electrical runs through that back half. So the back half of that bathroom is similar as Cochrane Park, is all the electrical for Cochrane Park. That's where you get that little kind of drive up in cost, along with auto locking doors. So we don't have to have someone go out there at night. It just auto seals those doors shut with mag locks. So that's where you get that 150 versus like an $80,000 bathroom. And then just to give you some information about Cochrane, Cochrane Park, the biggest complaint we had on a regular basis was, where's the bathroom? When we had Cochrane Park open without a bathroom. We had a porta potty out there that was vandalized 24/7. It was, I mean, if you ever went there, all sorts of symbols, everything in there. We had to get it fixed and cleaned several times a year. So the idea was to get a state-of-the-art bathroom in there, not a state-of-the-art, a good bathroom that was quality and could be handled. It got vandalized pretty quickly, as you noticed, with the spray paint, but at least they couldn't get inside to blow up anything or destroy anything. So that's where this idea came, to get this bathroom designed right away. The city does have a policy that porta potties are temporary. It can't be a long-term solution. That's in the city policy manual and development code. So we wouldn't be able to put a porta potty out there for a long-term solution. Obviously, if there's some kind of maintenance or something, we had to put a porta potty, we could totally do that. But if we're talking 3 to 4 years of a porta potty, we'd be going against our own code by doing that. So.
Other questions? Councilmember Blair.
Just to clarify, so what we're voting on is the current is however the design is at the time right now. My biggest hangup is we're gonna approve it to some design, and then we make a decision on what bathroom we're gonna go with. And then we have to pay another person again to design something else. I don't know if y'all remember, I don't know, a couple years ago, Olympia spent like $1 million on a bathroom. I'm not trying to run us into that same S show, okay? So I understand that like city facilities, they're built a lot different than a typical residential home. That's, so they do cost a little more. But let's not do $300,000.
That's what we're not doing. So we are not doing the 300,000. That's what Pat was mentioning. We switched to designing it ourselves and building ourselves. The cost of the restroom should be around 150. Because we've switched.
And that includes all of the electrical.
Plumbing, everything plumbed in, electrical, water, reclaimed water toilets, lighting on the outside, camera installation, all of that is included in that 150. The 33,000 before you is the design portion of that bathroom. And what we're going to do to kind of make things easier on us is we're taking the exact design of the Cochran Park bathroom and we just handed it to them and go, we want it almost exactly the same as this. So it'd be very similar in terms of that bathroom that we already have at Cochran Park, which should, that's what brought down the engineering costs and might bring them down even more when he actually gets into design phases. That's the hope, is that it'll be cheaper than prefabbing the restroom, which like you said, almost tripled or double, at least doubled in price.
Councilmember Hess.
I think you clarified from, right now, what we are looking at motion wise is to spend almost $34,000 for somebody to design a bathroom at this point.
Correct, that is what you're looking at, just designing. And like Pat said, is that when we get to the point where we go to bid, if Public Services Committee says, hey, we don't want the bathroom now, we don't have the money, let's just get the park built, we can have everything stubbed out and ready to go. So in 2 years, we could drop a bathroom on top of it. Really.
In reference to that, the follow-up I have for it is, we spend almost $34,000 for a design. Is this a design that we could use for future parks and future things? And if that's the case, why are we not using a design from one of the previous parks that we don't have to pay for because we already have the design?
So there's only one bathroom we've had done, and that was a prefab one that was there. Since it was prefab, there's some things that have to be done to build it on site. Since it's not built in the factory somewhere. So that's what we're paying for, is that design and the kind of adjustment to this dog park. Once this design is done, we could totally copy and paste this design and go, hey, we want to put this at a park up on the hill called Hess Park, right? And we could jam a bunch. I mean, we could do that, but we could, yes, you could copy and paste this design.
That's what I want to know, is that if we spend $34,000 for design, it's not a one-time design, never ever to be used again.
Yeah, no, we can use it again. You will obviously, if you have this design and in 10 years we want to use it again, there'd be some re-vetting of some stuff. So you'd have someone look at it. They wouldn't just go, okay, I'm good with this. They would re-vet it and say, hey, we've upgraded these type of things. Let's change this.
Councilmember Richardson.
It was kind of answered through Hess's question, and it was when you made the statement that that we already had the blueprints for a previous bathroom, and it's like, well, if we already got the blueprint, we're gonna pay for another design. Which was kind of what he said. So I think I'm good to go.
Along that line, if we already have that bathroom in Cochran Park, it's gonna take 34 grand to just redo it to be like a detached, what do you call it, non-fab?
Yeah, prefab. So prefabricated is what I'm abbreviating fabrication. So what they did for the public restroom company, they build it on site, they do all the testing on site, they test the lines, everything, it comes out and we just screw on the water. To make it really simple, screw on the water, screw in the sewer. Hey, there it is, turn it on, we're good to go, right? So there has to be some extra stuff that has to happen because we have to build on site. You have to build the electrical system on site, hook up the water. That was all done in a factory. So that was included in that cost. So now that design is going to be including all of that. But then again, we can use this design again in the future, just get it revetted.
Councilmember Smith.
I would like to make a motion. I move to authorize Mayor DePinto to sign supplemental agreement number 2 to the professional services agreement with Skillings Incorporated in the not to exceed amount of $33,837 for additional design engineering services for the off-leash dog park.
Second by Councilmember Hess. We're gonna do a roll call vote for this one. The first, is there any further discussion? All right, Councilmember Blair, how do you vote? Yea or nay?
No.
Councilmember Richardson,
No,
Councilmember Crossman,
I'm gonna say not this time, no.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye, yes.
Councilmember Hess,
Aye.
Councilmember Roy,
Aye.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-3. Thank you, council. Moving on, good discussion. Moving on to item B, under new business. Approval of public services agreement for a habitat conservation plan consultant. Cody.
Awesome. And there, hey, look at that. So the HCP, I'll just give you a brief rundown. This is something, because I know this is something council has, this is something required by law to have in order to continue to grow. So now that water rights are right on the horizon, we have to have a plan to take care of all the endangered species and animals, whether you agree with that or not, so that we can build on land where those endangered species and animals live. Without a habitat conservation plan, we wouldn't be able to build on lands that were inhabited by gophers and stuff. With a habitat conservation plan, we can build on those lands as long as we designate areas. That's a very simple way of doing it. Can you hit me with your first slide, London? Huzzah. So here is just a quick brief down. I know you can read, so I'm not going to read it to you, but just like I just explained, this habitat conservation plan gives us a plan to deal with I don't want to say deal with, that sounds like a bad thing. It gives us a way to interact with the animals and species and plants around us to properly grow our city without endangering those animals and species. And it also, if you have a plan in place, it streamlines the process with ecology, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So when we get to the process of developing on land that may be protected, we have something in place that we can refer to point them to get them on their way, versus coming in here and going, you can't do that, and holding this up for years on end. The biggest thing this is going to help is our future growth. Right now, it doesn't do a whole lot in terms of, I know there's a couple areas in town that aren't developed. If you've ever been by a couple of those where you just see them open fields, and why they're not getting developed, because there's probably pocket gophers that were detected or found there. This kind of helps those developers, but it really helps the future development in the areas that are highly habitable by these endangered species. Next one. And I'm going super quick. So here's the thing is, we were given a grant by the state for 1.4 or $1.1 million. 844,000 of that was just to develop a habitat conservation plan. The reason why we were given this grant is because of it's required by law to do this kind of thing, and a lot of municipalities didn't have the money to do it. So it's hard to require something by law, but not have the money to do it. So we applied for this grant, received the grant. We were able to get $1.1 million. And then several thousands of that is for staff time and a couple other things, but the big chunk of it is just for this grant writing opportunity. If you'll notice in year one, the one you have in front of you, the PSA is for Confluence. And I believe it's 540,000. 554,000 is just that part, which is a little bit lower than the grant amount we got, which is good because we're not spending as much of the grant on that habitat conservation part of it. Confluence, the reason they were selected, we have put out an RFP, which is a request for proposal that requested different companies to kind of present stuff to us and show us what their qualifications were. Confluence did Thurston County's habitat conservation plan. And so it made sense to select a company that was local. They're from the Seattle area, and they just did a habitat conservation plan with the exact species we're worried about in Yelm, because Thurston County is obviously borders Yelm. So it made sense to use them because they'll be able to copy and paste a lot of things from their current habitat conservation plan with Thurston County onto ours. They will draft, the HCP will be along with them, but they're going to do the majority of the heavy lifting in terms of drafting this up, because we're not environmentalists or biologists that can answer the questions that are going to be asked by U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Kind of a brief presentation. You got some numbers. I see hand members. I'll let Mayor Pino pick on who's going to be picked on.
Thank you.
So that's really it for my presentation. I'll answer specific questions, or if there's any more detailed information you need to know.
First, just to be clear, this $554,960, that is provided by a grant.
Yeah, so you have $844,000 for the development of it. 544 is what this bid was. So there's $300,000 in flexibility if they go over or under. Normally, there's not a lot of changes because they know what they need to do. They just did it with Thurston County. The long process, the extra money would go towards the appeal process. So what'll happen at the end, once they go out, it'll go out for a public comment, and then someone could say, hey, I don't think you protected this animal well enough. And then they would have to prove that they did that. And that would be where the extra money might come in that we would use. Ideally, we won't use it.
Thank you. Questions? Councilmember Crossman.
So the point you just brought up that just, so they just did for Thurston County. They know exactly what's in Yelm. So why does it cost $500,000 for them to go cut, paste?
Because Yelm is its special own little beast. So yes, Thurston County has a lot of the same things we do, but not the exact same things. The pocket gopher is more focused in Yelm. That's why it's called the Yelm pocket gopher, not the Thurston County pocket gopher. So they'll have to go dive a little deeper. And I know it sounds crazy. the biologists and everything, we'll have to dive a little deeper in the pocket gopher. I believe there's also a bat and a bird and maybe a turtle. So there's a couple different animals that may be more specific to Yelm, and then you. Turtle? Yeah, there might be a turtle. I just want. I don't want to say there is. But what they'll do is they'll actually come out, something they do is they come out and do site visits and check for these animals, right? They'll have biologists on site in their camo gear, hiding in the forest, looking for animals, and checking and actually visiting these sites to prove these animals do or don't exist here. So that's a lot of the work, is just being here and checking out to make sure these animals exist in this area or don't, and then how to.
In city limits.
In city limits, yes, they're just doing city limits. But that also involves, if you know, the whole entire back acreage that isn't developed yet, right? So there's gonna be some hiking and stuff for them to do to go out there and make sure those animals are, so future growth wouldn't be impacted.
Councilmember Blair, did you have a question? I thought I saw you raise your hand with,
We'll get you a gopher.
I want to know if it's a ninja.
you didn't have a question.
These types of regulations are exactly why people don't like it.
Yeah.
They put this stuff in place. Their buddies run the organizations that do this stuff. They get these nice fat $500,000 contracts. And we're supposed to sit here and say, yeah, let's do it.
Councilmember Hess.
Make it legal, but you have to do it.
You touched on it. I just wanted clarification. I understand city limits, but we also have our growth management plan. Will they be looking at our growth management plan area as well?
Yeah, and so that's where the benefit, so if, just give you an example, we had several different proposals. One of the proposals was for 800,000. And part of that was because they did the work for our UGA, because our UGA is Thurston County currently. So that they could just bring in, that would be something they could directly copy and paste and say, hey, we already did the work for this UGA because it was in Thurston County. And so we're gonna put it in the Yelm one because it is our growth area. So to answer your question, yes, they are gonna do our UGA because they've already done that work, thank goodness.
And then just to clarify what this plan will do for future developers. Part of the process of when a developer wants to develop a piece of property, they have to go ahead, they have to put in all this paperwork, studies, everything else like this. Like that, is this the study that they would have to do, or do developers still have to do another study on top of this that just confirms the same thing that we just paid $500,000 for?
So good question, very great question. So actually, this is a benefit for developers because they will be able to look at this and go, hey, I don't need to do it because this soil is not privy to a pocket gopher. And we'll already have that done for them. So they won't have to redo the work. Now, if a soil is, like if they go, gophers could be located, they would have to still out and go do a gopher recon because gophers can move. They don't just sit in place, unfortunately. So a gopher could move her, and so they would have to check that property, but they could use our soil samples to say, hey, gophers don't live here. I don't even have to worry about gophers. So that is one thing that would benefit developers and save them money, is they don't have to redo that section of the study.
And which hopefully will transfer to more affordable housing and things like that within our community itself.
Yeah, and I think one of the big benefits, you mentioned this already, is that currently if a developer finds gophers, it just shuts down the project. It's not like, hey, I want to do this. It shuts it down and just stays there. This would give them the ability to go, hey, I have this property, it's got gophers. What can I do? And we can go, and I'm just using gophers because everybody knows the pocket gopher. We can go, hey, we have this land over here. We're going to set it aside. You pay X amount of dollars. That's what this plan would come up with. You can now develop your property, and we have land set aside for gophers here that will mitigate that damage. So that would allow developers in areas to develop that may not be desirable right now.
Councilmember Smith, then Kaminsky.
I just gonna ask, I want it big word style. So we're getting this grant, and that's where the $500,000 is coming from. What happens if we say no?
Say no to.
Can we say, yeah,
You can say no to the, yes, you can totally say no.
I know we can. I'm just saying, what are the ramifications?
Yeah, so what would happen is if we didn't do a habitat conservation plan, lands that were seen to have endangered species would never be able to be developed. So we'd stop development in any lands that was considered endangered, any of those things. And maybe wetlands too would be affected. So there'd be a lot of lands we couldn't develop at that point, which would stop our outward growth and kind of lock us in to where we are. That's what would end up happening. You also, then you're now refusing the grant. The grant money would eventually just recycle back in, go to another city that applied for the same grant. That's just the short term. Long-term is, are a lot of acreage that we thought would be developed, would not be developed. We'd have to change some of our plans, Thurston Highlands, maybe some of our other areas to try to figure out where the population is gonna go. It'd be an interesting scenario.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
I answered my own question. I was gonna say, how long will the study take? But it's gonna be 1 to 2 years while they're hiding in the bushes looking for the gophers. That's how long it takes. I know.
And so that's why we're getting ahead of the game, because the development that'll come to this.
Sorry.
I just know you're getting a little hiding with adorable stuff. No, you're totally right. It'll take 1 to 2 years. If Thurston counties took 1 to 2 years and they're still in the appeal like they're in the process right now of still getting the final project approved.
Do you remember, were you with us when we went to the base and the head guy there had made that video? Were you there? with us?
Yes.
That was absolutely hysterical. I wish we could get that video of him with gophers on his hat. He's out there with his guns in the pastures looking for these animals. It was hilarious. Anyway.
Councilmember Richardson.
So realistically, this is like the protocol that we have to follow in order to develop and build.
Yeah, in
In
order
order
to
to not do that unless we follow this.
without a habitat conservation plan, our development will eventually stop. Yes.
Councilmember Hess.
I'd like to move to authorize Mayor DePinto to sign a public service agreement for a habitat conservation plan with its environmental company in the amount not to exceed $554,960.
Is there a second? Councilmember Richardson seconds that. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Smith.
Have we had this done? Has this been done before?
No, this is the first time,
Okay,
brand new,
thank you.
fresh off the press.
Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote again. We'll start on this side with Terry Kaminsky first.
Aye.
Councilmember Roy. Councilmember Hess.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Crossman.
Aye.
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Hell no.
Please watch your language. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you, council. All right, moving on. We're moving at a good pace, a lot of good discussion, but a pretty solid pace. How about agenda item number 6C, approval of public service agreement for a new hearing examiner? Odie, please tell us why we need a new hearing.
Back. Hey, here's another one required by law. No. Sorry, I'm getting silly. So hearing examiner, as you know, or may not know if you read, I mean, most of you have. So our last hearing examiner retired last year. He was our hearing examiner for a long time, and he got up there and wanted to retire. So he retired. We brought on, we did RFP, request for proposal again for hearing examiners. The one that we selected was local. I believe he's in Chehalis area. And does the hearing examiner stuff work for Olympia. And his rate is pretty decent compared to our last hearing examiner was $250 an hour. This one I believe is under that, which is great. And he's done work and he's knowledgeable about the area, which is very helpful because hearing examiners are required for certain things. Like if there's a pocket gopher, if there's areas of development, final plats, hearing examiners required. This is a pass-on fee. So what that means is when a developer comes in or a appellant comes in and they apply for something, they'll have to pay a hearing examiner fee if they require a hearing examiner. We collect that fee from them and then we pay it to the hearing examiner. So we don't pay the hearing examiner out of our own coffers directly unless there's something specific the city needs them for, but they work as a mediator between us and other entities to come up with non-biased decisions about property and development. Every city has a hearing examiner. They're required to have a hearing examiner, and it's something just to kind of protect both the developer and the city with a neutral third party. So,
Councilmember Blair.
Is there a retainer fee or anything like that?
no, it's just the $250 an hour.
Councilmember Hess.
Discussed it earlier. Just want to make sure the dates are corrected now.
Yeah, so the date, you'll notice the dates, it's an automatic renewal PSA. It says January 1, 2021 to December 2021. He did start last year because we had to have a hearing examiner. So he started as just an hourly biller on ours, an on-call contract. The PSA is a formality, so that way we can, kind of keep him locked in. But it is an auto-renewing contract. So the current one you have possessed will be a second one that'll be 2022. It's an auto-renewing contract. Thank you for catching that, Councilmember.
Councilmember Roy.
Just out of curiosity, how many hours does the city take hearing examiners?
So usually, and I can be correct if I'm wrong, 3 to 5 hours a month is about average. Unless there's something very active, like development's about to pick up, I would imagine we'll probably get a couple more hours. If there's a specific thing that requires his attention, we get more hours than that.
Councilmember Hess.
And then just a clarification in reference to what you stated about the pass-through fee. It's a private citizen or a private developer has to go through the hearing process. They actually pay the hearing process. We collect it, then we pay him. So it's a zero cost to us as a city unless we're the ones that need the hearing. And then we have to make sure it's budgeted to pay for that.
Correct. Okay. Any other questions? Entertain a motion. Councilmember Roy.
I move to authorize Mayor DePinto to sign a PSA with Mr. Mark Scheidmeyer to serve as the new hearing examiner for the city of Yelm.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Smith. Any further discussion? I'm just gonna ask for a verbal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All righty, moving right along. Old business. There is none. Updates. Department heads. Yeah, Doc, please. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
City Administrator Todd Stansel, excuse me.
All right, just a few updates from our departments. On the police side of things, they're in the final process of a background with a lateral candidate. So hopefully in the next week or so, we have an answer on that. We're doing interviews in the next week with 2 other potential lateral candidates that may perhaps want to come work for us. So we're optimistic about that. We did receive a $20,000 grant from the Nisqually tribe for some less lethal weaponry that kind of coincides with the legislative mandates that came out last year. It's I can't remember the name of what they're called, but essentially that's what we asked the tribe for, and so they gave us $20,000 to help pay for that. So we're going to go through that process in the next couple of weeks, and we can give you more update on that, exactly what they are and what they do, and maybe even show you a demonstration if we have any volunteers. That's what it looks like.
Oh, I'll do it.
I know. Everybody will do it once. The other thing in the HR department, we're going to go out for our communications position in the next few days. So it'll be advertised internally, and then it will go out after that.
What's the title, Chief?
Yes, it is a little bit of a lengthy title. It is an outreach coordinator / communications director. So it will take the communications responsibilities that we had before and add in some outreach coordination with any outside entities or groups that want to use city parks, facilities, any of our buildings, community center. They will be the liaison, the contact for that to help coordinate that in a more organized fashion. So we're very excited about that position. We have found over the past 2 months how much that is needed. None more so than this weekend.
So we hired someone?
No, it's going to go out this week. Yeah, we just got the job description completed and approved and sent off to the union. So we're all good to go. So that'll go out.
Chief, was this a budgeted position?
Yes, yeah.
You said it's a union position?
Yes, yeah, the communications positions, union position, yes. The other position we'll go out for is the part-time accounts payable. This is also a budgeted position that was put in the budget from January 1. We've just been holding off on filling that position until we kind of made sure where it was needed and how much it was needed. So we're optimistic that it is needed and that will do some great things for us to free up some other time in the department. So you'll see that in the public works world. You notice a little bit cold out there. You might see de-icer in different places on the road. They de-iced last night. Cody did it himself. No, just kidding. That's where he's going after this. Did some de-icing, and they'll do some more de-icing tonight. So keep the roads nice and safe for everybody. Also in public works, the office upgrade to the upstairs portion of the building is going to start tomorrow. So Pretty excited about that. The entire upstairs, if you've never been up down there to the Public Works Building and been upstairs, it's a huge area. And so that will be transformed into office space for the planning department, building officials, and things like that. So it's making great use of that area. So that'll start tomorrow. And I think, what, a couple weeks, Cody? We're gonna do it like in a couple weeks. So we'll have that thing done in no time. So pretty excited about that. The last thing I just wanted to throw out there was from the Nisqually meeting last Thursday. I felt like it was a great success. I think everybody did. I just wanted to point out, there was a couple folks that did a lot of work to make that happen and pull that all together. Obviously, Captain Lindemeyer did a lot of work working with the tribe to make that happen. In addition, our IT folks, both Aaron and Jason, did a tremendous job working with the tribe and being able to live stream that. And apparently it's excellent sound and everything for the meeting. So I just wanted to point those folks out for making that happen with the tribe. So any questions for me while I'm up here?
Councilmember Crossman.
The biggest issue right now, the park vandalism.
Yes.
Can you speak to what can be done? What are ramifications for vandalism? What can we do as a city, as a council with laws and all that? Give us a quick, what needs to happen? What do you suggest should happen? Is something that we can do? The whole thing to solve, what's the solution?
So there's no easy answer. There's no easy.
Give them the easy answer.
I can give you an easy answer.
I got a lot of my ideas what should happen.
I don't like to give an easy answer, but I can tell you it's not an easy answer. So we talked about the cameras going in at the different parks, and cameras are great as long as the cameras are good enough to actually see something at night. A lot of cameras don't, ours will. Our cameras do a pretty good job of that at night. So you got the part of having the infrastructure in place to find and hold accountable those that are doing it. And the second piece of it is that you have to have the system hold those folks accountable when you actually find out who did it. That's the major issue. The major issue is the accountability of juveniles is more and more difficult every year. And so there's different things as far as the park goes. It's not a criminal side of things, but we can trespass them from the parks if we do catch them in the parks and we do find out they're doing it. We've had some success, not much, with the kids working with the parents and actually having them come back and do the repairs and painting and whatnot. I know Public Works has worked with a few of them, got some paint. That's mixed bag of success with that. But there's a little bit of accountability there. If you get the parents on board that are in favor of coming up with some alternative solutions to help, that's excellent. But that doesn't always happen. Not as often as we'd like it to happen. So I think the cameras, the lighting, the ability to identify these folks, and then of course getting the juvenile system on board to help us prosecute, those kids that do that type of damage. Property crimes are not commonly prosecuted in the juvenile world. Unfortunately, as I would say, I guess not nearly enough. I think the other issue that I know we talked about up here was the locks, the different locking mechanisms on the bathrooms. And I know that with the new bathrooms, that's part of it. And one of the conversations we just had this morning was the locks on the community center. That locking system is not ideal, especially for the bathrooms. And right now, I think they're manually set to 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., right? That they just do a hard lock. And unfortunately, what we would get is people would go in there before they lock, and then they would stay the night. And then, they would have 12 hours of solitude in the bathroom. So that always obviously is not the ideal case as well. So one of the things we're looking at is we do have a loss prevention grant through Association of Washington Cities that we get every year. We're looking to see if that could potentially offset the impact of coming up with a new locking mechanism over here on our park so that they can use the bathrooms and then we can keep them open through the spring and summertime and everything else. So there's a multitude of things that that we can do internally, but at the end of the day, the kids got to be held accountable at some point.
That's all right.
In reference to this holding accountable. And I don't know if it's easy to do or not. Can we give an estimate or actually what the cost is to have to do the repairs, to have to do all these things, and actually present it to us, the council. The public can watch it, but at the same time, be able to get that information out to let the youth know that, hey, if it's $80,000 that it costs to do this, that's $80,000 that we as a city cannot put towards a youth program. Takes away from maybe a future development in the park, takes away from something that could be good for them. It's not going to help everybody. But if we could actually, and this is what I would like to suggest maybe that we could do for the future for vandalism and the property crimes, is let's get that out there and let's show what the cost is. Because we, as 7 individuals looking at the budget, we see the cost. I don't think the public's educated on that. That might help out, because there might be some people out there who all of a sudden start going, okay, now I know why we're not getting certain things that we would like to have, because a bathroom getting blown up costs this much. That money has to come from somewhere. It's just it's another alternative way. It's not holding a court, it's not putting somebody in jail, but it's educating them on something that they might be missing out on.
Yeah, well, the damage to any park is obviously public can get that information. That's not secret information.
Well, I know it's not secret, but I'm just thinking if we can kind of get a campaign in some way to show, like, you know, there's, I forget what city has it, but they got the little thing that shows, hey, this is the deficit that, you know, what's the cost is for the federal government, this is the deficit building up kind of thing. If we had something where we go, okay, you know, this is we've had the following damage done that was malicious damage, not accidental damage, but malicious damage, and kind of show so that people within our community can all of a sudden start seeing the dollars start adding up. And then when they go, oh, we really have a problem, and we need to try to figure out something, and maybe the community can assist us by helping watch what's going on a little bit better. Not the vigilante watching out, but maybe the one good youth who's about ready to watch one of his friends do something stupid, all of a sudden goes, let's not do that. I'm just trying to think.
We had a little bit of success with that on the skate park. So when the skate park first opened, we would get some vandalism going on, trash. We would warn them repeatedly, hey, if you guys can't pick your trash up, we're gonna close the park. And we ended up closing the park down a couple days. And it did seem to help for a period of time, because of course that's their park, right? They want to go there and skate, and it's hundreds of kids go there on a daily basis. So, you know, we've shut the bathrooms down on multiple different occasions, thinking that at some point they'd quit vandalizing them, but it hasn't had the same effect as a skate park. But I understand completely what you're saying is if people understood the costs associated with repairs to these bathrooms, they'd be astonished. That make that 150 sound pretty cheap at the end of the day if they knew the damage that they would have cost to someone.
So I'm just trying to think of another option that we have available to us to help educate. So maybe it might actually stop.
Councilmember Blair, do you have a question?
Not so much a question. It's not a bad idea at all. But a lot of what people just need to understand is there are parents that just don't care.
They're not going to care about you.
The kid that is doing stuff to the bathroom, he don't care what it costs.
Councilmember
And
Crawford?
a lot of the parents, they're not doing anything.
Councilmember Crossman?
So it has worked really well for my instances I had, and those is public shaming. Can we do that? Can you say, these are responsible parties, we are pursuing litigation or whatever on this day? Can you publicly send a police report out?
Not with juveniles, we can't. No.
Any further questions for?
One other option is you pump classical music. A lot of cities are doing this, believe it or not, where there's a high population of youth that hang out. They will funnel classical music through speakers, and it's literally worked. It's
In areas,
yeah, it'll work, because they will not stand there and listen to that music. They will move on.
We'll look at,
If anybody has anything. Music.
all right, any other questions for the city administrator and his update?
I was gonna say snarling guard dogs or something in the near
Yeah,
circle.
well, something.
All right, well, we're getting a little off topic now. Anything else?
With ideas. No, that's it for me.
All righty,
Thank you.
moving on along. Let's go to council member updates. Councilmember Blair.
Don't have any specific updates. Sorry I missed the meeting with the tribe. Started up kind of like a new little side gig and I was working.
You are forgiven.
I wanted to be there for that.
It was really good. It was a good meeting though. Is that everything?
Yep.
All right.
I should have some nav finance for the next one.
Sounds good. Councilmember Richardson.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the tribal council was fantastic. I really enjoyed the light snacks. It was, I hope we can meet with them again and maybe if it's not a actual council meeting, but just spend some time with that would be fantastic. I don't know. I look at that as remarkable as keeping relationship with them. Also attended the TRPC, what is that, Thurston Regional Planning Commission? Is that what it is? Yeah. I attended that with Brian and I gotta tell you, really, really impressed with Brian's questions. We all know we ask a lot of questions, but in this situation, it was really good because he had brought it up towards really holding them accountable with road and transportation and the allocation of monies and how it's, and how the legislature itself is written. And so I guess he's gonna meet with them and get some more insight on that, but I was really impressed with the questions that he asked. And I just want to say that we have a really good council member here, Brian, as far as going to meetings and not just attending, but being a part of it and asking great questions.
Way to rep Yelm, Councilmember Hess. Anything else, Councilmember Richardson?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Crossman.
Well, I mean, it was good. Public services meeting today, and I'll let Chair Hess give the report on that.
All righty. Councilmember Smith.
Tribal meeting was great and there's a public safety meeting on Tuesday that I will be attending.
Councilmember Hess.
Let's see, I'll go ahead and start off with the Public Works Committee. It was really good. Thank you, Director, for having the team introduced and educating the three council members on there of what your department does, who's responsible for what. It was very good to know. We also had the discussion with, and I just want to say, I call it the correct thing. The Education Innovation Center, we got a nice little briefing about that and more information about that there. And from the other members that were there, correct me if I'm wrong on this, we kind of felt as council members that when we do our retreat, we're going to sit down and actually, we want to take some time to truly discuss that, kind of find a way, because what we considered was giving a right and left limits of what we want for future development of that property. So that then it can go into a design phase, seeing how we still have grant money available to do that. Let's take advantage of that grant money to get something designed, presented to the council and to the community as a whole. We also talked about just very lightly on future things. So it looks like we're going to be doing some really good stuff with Public Works. The Nisqually Tribal Council meeting, that was, I commend that. It was really good. I got to network with two of the council members, and we will be exchanging emails soon to kind of like build a nice conversation relationship, to be able to have discussions, to present to both councils, to be able to work on future projects together. Let's see, the Transportation Policy Board, not much there, because it's also combines with the Thurston Regional Planning Council. As was stated, it was a good meeting. Some things brought up, what's going on. And one, just to kind of give some information in reference to the Thurston Regional Planning Council, one of the big things that they're looking at doing is the climate mitigation plan. That is their focus at this time. Had a good conversation a week later with a member of the staff. We talked about the big issue right now is the powering, the electrical grid, the power grid, doing things of trying to lower the carbon footprint for Thurston County. And that was very productive. We discussed like how are they monitoring and what they're getting ready to do. One of the steps that the council's getting ready to do is right now it's volunteers that monitor the carbon footprint. And the way that they go about monitoring it was kind of educational. It's not how I would do it, but they say that's effective. But they want to take it from being the volunteers to actually having the staff do it now. And so there's going to be some cost to that. That'll be coming up in future meetings of what will that cost be to start taking over that. And it's kind of, as I said, the offline conversation was very productive because, as was stated, I'm asking the questions of, on the technical side more of, hey, let's dig into the weeds, how's this gonna work? And so it's kind of helping them understand that there are people out there that are asking these questions. So it'll be really good. And as we get more information and it develops, I will bring more of what Yelm can look forward to. One of the questions that I have for one of the, it's either the Thurston Regional Planning Council or the housing one. I noticed that it started off with Lacey, Olympia, and Tumwater as the primary. And I'd asked the question of, when it comes down to votes, how's this all work? And it was explained to me that the original founding members have a stronger vote when it comes down to certain things. I'm going to kind of sit down, watch how things are going, but I'm going to propose that if Yelm is starting to grow and start being an equal to those three communities in a certain way, that our vote needs to be a little bit more powerful as well. So just to give you a heads up on that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Hess. Councilmember Roy.
I had our study meeting, South Thurston Economic Development Initiative. A couple points that came out of that is, like a lot of places, Thurston County is hiring. They are preparing to move some employees to their atrium building, and they're very excited for that move. There is a new Thurston Strong grant available for organizational and business startups. That'll open March 1st through May 1st. So if there's anyone out there who is looking to start up a new venture, that is available. It's up to like $75,000 for a single business. So that's really helpful. At the study meeting, we also got an overview about TRPC from their executive, Mark Daly. And he gave us a really great overview. But one of the things that he made note of was the statistical data that they compile every year for cities like ours. Their statistical data on like economics, education, land use, and they've been doing that since 1982. And if you haven't looked at the profile and checked out like the different cities, it is an interesting breakdown of information.
We're on.
Is that?
Thank you.
No, why do they need? Okay.
We'll get that information. Councilmember Kaminsky.
Sorry, you missed that. I attended Public Works with Brian and Josh. We have already spoken about that. And I had my first 3-hour meeting with the Nisqually River Council. Try and highlight that in a few words. And we basically talked about the state of the sound. Is the sound healthy? Is the sound not healthy? Basically, it looks very good on the surface, but underneath it's in very poor condition. Very, very bad. They have vital signs or signals that they use to measure the health of the sound. And basically they're saying that the salmon and the whales, their health are like the canary in the coal mine, and neither one of them are doing very well, which was very, very sad to hear. So the big issues are mostly the change in climate. I think the water's heating up and how that filters down the food chain. And of course, growth along our waterways. And somebody pointed out, if the environment can make a 2-ton whale struggle with its health, then what is it even doing to us, with the toxins in our environment? So I thought that was a good way to look at it. So of the 50 indicators that they use, only 5 of those indicators are even near making the grade. So you can see that it's like nothing that they're measuring is up to par at all. One of the big issues is the PDES's fire retardant chemicals. Some species are holding, and the good things are that people come to the sound, they love it. There's a very strong sense of place that people love that area. So that's good. And there's a lot of personal harvest of the oysters and clams. So people use it and enjoy it. They did mention that the Indian Fisheries Commission report, I don't know, similar to this, what we have, contains a lot of the information that the Nisqually River Council puts out on the health of the region. 53% of state funding. Of all the monies they had, only 53% was actually funded by the state to help the area. And the hope is that there is new funding to the region through the Infrastructure Act, and that the legislature approved 1.3 billion for recovery of the sound. And closer to home, my ears perked up when I heard names I recognized, and I mentioned this in Cody's meeting. They did cite that there are a lot of nitrates in the Yelm Creek, but Cody explained that water, the plants around the creek absorb the nitrates, but then if you don't harvest those plants, then they die and go back into the aquifer. So it's the cycle. So that's something we have to do. And then they also studied the basins in our area, like water basins, and up to the year 2045, one of the more riskier places was our beautiful Lake Lawrence. So that was not very good. Yeah. So, and they also talked about, yeah, get right on that, will you? The new bill state legislature for student involvement and outdoor education kind of parallels what the tribe had told us. And so that was very, very, very good. And as for the tribe, I thoroughly enjoyed our afternoon, and I hope that they enjoyed us. I hope somebody got feedback on what they thought.
Yeah, no,
because
it's
we
very,
loved it.
yeah, we got a little feedback. That's
Good.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaminsky. All right, got a lot of meetings coming up. As you know, we chatted with our state delegation, our Senator McCune. We got meetings with Rep. Marcus tomorrow, Wilcox Friday, meeting with the YMCA tomorrow with their board. I have an in-person meeting with Congresswoman Strickland on Thursday. That's a one-on-one, which will be great. Had a meeting with Mayor Fournier of Tenino last week on Friday. That went well. Talked about kind of more partnerships and some of the other regional groups that we all belong to, especially the South County cities, and how we need to stick together basically, and we do. And then lastly, just wanted to update you on the council retreat. We've reserved a main area house for our main meetings. So we'll go through starting. It'll be Friday with staff will arrive. It's going to be in Westport. Should have said that starting off. Found a place in Westport. Staff will get there around 10 a.m. We'll get some of the staff retreat stuff done, as well as some of the what they're going to be speaking to you about. Council should arrive around 4 o'clock. And from 4 to 6, we'll hear from the different departments. We'll have dinner at 6. And then after dinner, we'll go into finance, public service presentations. And that'll be going on during dinner and after dinner. And then we can also fit in some of these other items that council has discussed. And that'll go on that night as well as in the morning. Saturday morning, we'll have breakfast, discuss some of these other items, and do some team building exercises. And then the rest of the time we'll be planning and then heading out at noon.
At noon?
At noon.
So we get there at 4? And if you take away a couple, that's not very long time to do all the things we want to figure out.
I mean, yeah,
It's not very long.
Do our own stuff.
all right, let's just, you guys want to make it a week? No, I understand, but if we do need to discuss more, we'll have these meetings fairly officially, and if we do need more time, we can do either through a study session and explore it a little bit further.
So do they make us leave at 12?
Yeah, it's a
Or
hard,
in a
yeah.
conference room or wherever?
I mean, we were supposed to be out by 11, but I mean, we could meet up at a local restaurant too, if we want to continue some of these discussions as well. Yeah, Councilmember.
Dates on that again?
Yeah, Friday, April 22nd. Check out Saturday, April 23rd. Council will be staying at the illustrious Westport Inn. Yeah, it's a 5-star hotel down in Westport.
I'll just stay there.
If you're, you can stay there. This is under budget as well. You know, we budget kind of around $6 grand or so for this. We're about half of that cost, so we're keeping it pretty affordable. And yeah, we're making the best use of taxpayer dollars for this. Any other questions? All righty. Oh, Councilmember Smith?
I move we adjourn.
Oh, I like it.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Crossen. There's no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right.